Hello everyone. Good morning. And the Glass Man here. You're watching the Glass Man's World. So today I wanted to talk to you about just the processing of losing our loved ones, losing individuals that we've spent time with in this life, and we've come to know in a very close way. We've become connected in such a way that it's just always hard to lose individuals in this lifetime, in this path here. You know, we just recently went through our brother Emmanuel Hart. I've always known him as Manny, but we lost our brother Emmanuel Joseph Hart. Cooking with Hart. He was always known for cooking. He was such a beautiful man, a beautiful soul. He had been connected to God, to Jesus, and we spoke often of our spiritual lives, our spiritual paths, and everything that we believed in these ways, in these times. It's still unbelievable that he's gone. He was a good man. He was a good soul. I've only known Manny. Gosh, I really just met him last year. Like, I'm thinking like around, I don't know when it was. Was it before 420? Was it like, all I know is when I met him because some friends of mine were going to do an event, and they wanted to throw an event there with him, and Manny was going to work with them on some things, but then they were trying to do a little bit more than what he was going to be legally allowed to do. They were gonna put together a 420 event there, and it was going to be really huge. I don't know whatever happened with the event as far as it coming off, and there were some big things that were going to happen, and I ended up getting involved to help out because I've had experience being a promoter, helping with managing stages, doing promotions and productions, getting the lineup, the talent lineup, finding musicians and other talent that may be on stage, finding MCs to run the whole event, getting security, like just producing shows, doing it all. And so I basically joined to help them, and was called in to meet them at a spot called ABQ Bite in Nob Hill here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they were saying they were going to meet the manager there and discuss coordinating the event and scheduling the times and the date and everything. And things were rolling smooth. And the very first meeting, I showed up a little bit late, but I showed up. I told him, if I can make it, I'll make it. In the last few years, my issue has been no vehicle, and having to just always be home and take care of my wife, and basically become her caretaker, daily. And I want to make sure I'm always here, when she wakes up, make sure that I can help her get through like breakfast and the whole morning routines. And then, when lunch comes around, and a lot of times she'll have to go down and take a nap. And so I got to make sure I'm here a lot of times. These days, my life has been extremely, taken by what's necessary here for the family. So I made it to the event, to the meeting there, and I was introduced to Manny for the first time ever. And I had just shown up, and they're like, "Oh, hey, it's so good to see you. We actually just finished up the meeting and everything." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I think I was only a few minutes late, so I was surprised that they were actually done with speaking about everything, and it was already discussed. So, um, Manny and I started talking, and he started discussing like what they had all discussed and talked about and everything, and he and I just we connected for some reason. There was something about him and myself that I don't know. It was just like that. Like right away, he was just like I don't know. It was something about it to where, I showed up late to this meeting, right? And then after everyone's done talking, I go and I talk to my friends about what they had talked about and stuff like that. Then Manny was like, "Hey, come here," and then he wanted to talk to me one on one, and we started connecting. And then he was like telling me about not just this event that we were talking about, but he was talking about future events and his ideas on what he wanted to do with ABQ Bite, with the restaurant he was working at in Nob Hill, and all these different things, and how I was telling him, the reason why I was getting involved with this event was because I had my experience in promotions and productions, and I had done events, I had done shows, I've hosted different different concerts and different events and open mics and poetry readings and youth events and all these things. And so we had all these ideas just shooting back and forth and back and forth. And then he's like, "Come on, come here," and he took me downstairs and showed me the basement down there. And he's like, "Look, I want to get this whole area all set up to where we can clear it out, and we can have private events and private parties down here while we're having other events upstairs. And maybe if you wanted to use this space down here, you can have your own events, and you can bring your torch and blow glass and like and do." And I was like, "Wow, man! Like this guy." He opened himself up to me, and he opened up ABQ Bite to me, right away. Within, I don't even know, um, that event didn't happen, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was a falling out or if they just split ways or whatever had happened, but that event didn't occur at ABQ Bite. But Manny and I, we still stayed connected. And I started going into the restaurant, and I was like, I had these ideas like, wow, like this guy's giving me like access to use the area for making a stage, to set up events, to host musicians and artists and different things. We brought Orlando Cruz in there. He was the first artist that we were gonna do a monthly artist. Every month a new artist would show up, and they would have a big art opening, and then at the end of the month an art closing. You'd have two receptions, one at the beginning of the month, one at the end of the month, and then bam, piggyback right with the next artist coming in every month, and then close out. And it was supposed to be like that, but it didn't get coordinated all the way through. And Orlando, he basically just became like the rolling artist all the way through for most of that time, but we never. And I tried to tell Orlando, like let's set a date and a time, and let's coordinate an event to do an actual opening for the art show, but that never happened. A lot of times things are just like thrown, like, here, let's just do this, and just throw things together, and sometimes things flop because you don't put the energy and effort into stuff. So um we had so many different ideas and things that were happening. We did, Serena and I, we started to do the ABQ Bite presents the Cosmic Trading Circle and open mic, which was every Sunday starting, I think, like in June or July of last year, like about a year ago this time. And we had started up these events every Sunday from, like, I don't know if it was like noon till 4 or 2 to 6. It was like early in the day, trying to get people out, not too early on a Sunday, after everyone goes to church and their gatherings and things, and have their breakfast or their brunch, and then come on over. Or come on and have lunch over at ABQ Bite. Enjoy some live music. Check out, we had vendors setting up and stuff, and the events, they started out for a little while, and a couple people would show up, but I'm not sure what the reason was, but I had a hard time pulling people. Now, either because I've utilized Facebook in a way to start sharing a lot of truths, and I got censored and basically been shadow banned there. Um, I don't know, like my algorithm, I'll share something out and people don't get it until days later. So then, by the time that the event's already happened, they get the flyer and it's already passed. They've already missed the event. So, Facebook for me doesn't work out very well. That's why I try to utilize YouTube here more often. So, we did the best we could with trying to pull it. And, I always felt like I was letting Manny down. Because I told him, like I had done the Bob Marley birthday bash for like 10 years, and we had done some big shows, and I had done a lot of shows at like the El Rey Theater and the Golden West before it burnt down, and we brought in big names, like people like BB King and like all these, like we were working side by side with Timmy, Timmy, I call him Timmy, with Tim Reynolds from Dave Matthews Band, and working personally with him, and him doing many shows for us and actually donating his time. What we would pay him, he donated that money into the cancer groups that we were raising funds for, like Cancer Society of New Mexico and a UNM Cancer Fund or something like that. And so, I was telling him how I've done all these things and this and that, but it's been like 10 years since I've tried to produce any shows. And like I got involved in doing like all this stuff with the Drop of Water and doing all this water protection stuff and getting involved with the glass more. And my band Element 37 hasn't been performing for like, at this point, for like almost 10 years now, so I was telling him all these things, and he believed in me. And that's the thing about Manny, was that everyone that I knew, that he introduced me to, like, he was trying to lift everyone up. He was such a good soul. And him and I, he spoke on many things. We confided in each other with so many personal things, like relationship issues, with, between him and his woman, between me and Serena, the different things that we're going through, and the headaches and aggravations, and just those walls that you hit with individuals. And it's like, how do you just, like, you don't want to like break them down and tear them apart, but like, how do you just like get around them and things, And so we totally just, we bonded in that way, in such a good way. He was such a good father. He was a good soul. And he cared about his community. That's the one thing that I learned about him, was he was so connected. He was connected with the, just a lot of people in Albuquerque, the Nob Hill, all the shops there in Nob Hill. And, his, in the last year that I knew him, we had done all these shows together and started working together, and eventually his knees started to have issues with him. I think he missed a step going down the basement, and he missed a step, and he messed up his knee, and he had to go into the hospital at that point. And I'm not sure if other things had come about at that point with his health and stuff, but I knew that at that point he started to have to walk with a cane. So I started to go in there more often, not just for those events that we were trying to do like once a week or whatever, but I was trying to go in there, I was helping him with deep cleaning. We were promoting the Norwex on him. We were like, hey, if we could get Norwex into a local business, maybe we can get other owners to like open their eyes and see how we could all, as a community here in Albuquerque or in Nob Hill, or just a few businesses, come together to save water, to stop using chemicals and putting them all down in the supplies. With all the businesses that we have here, and everyone's using Lysol, Windex, and Pledge, and Ajax, and bleach, and Mr. Clean, and all these toxic chemicals, and just putting them all down in the drains. Like, it, imagine if someone just lit it up, like all the sewage would just blow up, probably, or something. Like, I'm sure it's flammable down there. All those fumes and everything. And everyone's got to open up windows and open up doors and turn the air conditioner on and let the air out. It's like, all you got to do is just get this. So we were utilizing his generosity and him allowing us to come in and use the space. And I was like, hey, I can come in and do deep cleanings for you. So he actually started hiring me to come in and clean. And, there were a few times when I do some work for him, and then things would get busy at the end of the day or the night, and I'd just be like, hey, yo, I gotta go, but we'll catch up later. And I would just remember, like, the hours that I put in or whatever, and then a week would go by or whatever, and like, hey, Manny, we never squared up on that thing. And he's like, oh, well, you just gotta let me know. And then, bam, he'd just pull out some money and he would just pay me, And I didn't know whether he was struggling or whether he had the funds or able to pay, or because he had forgotten it or whatever. So, I was always like real careful and cautious about those kind of things. And, it's funny, as I found out at the funeral when we were when we were celebrating his life, that was the theme of his life. And he did that with his cousins and all that. And there was always these situations, I guess, where sometimes money never came back, but I picked up on that right away. And so I didn't allow that sort of relationship to happen between me and him. And if anything, I always, I always just wanted to make sure that he was helping me. I wanted to just give back and help him. I'd come in and he'd be like, hey, you hungry? You want this? You want that? I'm like, no, man, I'm good. Like, even just water. Hey, you want a water? Like, no. I always got my own. Like, you don't need to open up your case of water for me. Like, no, I always have my own water. I'm good, Manny. I take care of myself. I got food at home. You don't have to get up and feed me right now. There's no customers here. Like, why are you going to turn on the whole kitchen just to make me a meal? And that's the type of man that he was. He would do that. He did that for the homeless. He was such an inspiration, He would invite the homeless in to ABQ Bite, and he would just feed them. He wouldn't ask them like, hey, can you do the dishes? Hey, he had, that's one thing. When I'd come in, I'd like, hey, Manny, I'm going to come clean with Norwex, right? And then he'd try to get me to do these other jobs. Like, hey, can you come back here and do the dishes for me? I'm like, no, I'm not being hired as kitchen help or staff here. I'm not being hired. I'm just gonna come in as your buddy and help you out from time to time, and clean with Norwex because it's gonna help out the whole community and everything, And so he tried to get me on those dishes. I don't know how many times. I think there was one time I finally did them for him, and I didn't like it because it was the first time in like a year or two, maybe in like 2 years, that I was washing dishes with like Dawn, with like actual dish soap. And it felt so weird and slimy to me. And it's like, this is weird, like so foreign to me now after using Norwex for like however long. And gosh, I don't even know how long it's been for me, 6 years now. And it was just one of those things that he would try to get me to do dishes all the time. Like, no, Manny, like I'm not that Huckleberry. So I learned right away how to say no to him on things. And at the funeral, you hear about people's stories and stuff, and how he was a smooth talker. He was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. But he got things done, and he knew how to connect people, and he knew how to introduce individuals. Like I'm really horrible at that. Like, on here on the camera, I'm always like a go-getter and outgoing and outspoken and all this stuff, but it's just me. It's just me just sharing words and stuff, you know? Whenever I'm in a crowd and everything, I tend to go quiet. I tend to not really know what to talk about with people because I'm not the same as people, you know? They're like, hey, did you watch the game last night? I'm like, no. Hey, did you watch that movie? No. Like, everyone's talking about all these, like, things that, you know, entertainment and stuff that's going on in the material world, and I'm just like, no, like, I don't ever know what to talk about, you know? Such a weird thing. Like, hey, have you protected the water? Have you gone out to pick up the trash? Like, those are the things like I'm talking about, you know? Like, talk about the spirit soul. Like, have you really found out and understood that your soul is eternal and that we all are eternal spirit souls now? Like, we're forever. We're immortal in our souls, you know? Those are the kind of things that I like to talk about. And most people, it's like, hey, did you watch the game? Did you watch this movie? Did you watch this TV show? Did you see that thing that was going on or this and that? It's like, so I tend to go quiet in these public settings and stuff. But Manny, he was always so outspoken and just he introduced so many individuals, and that's the thing is he within a year of me just getting to know him, we bonded like that, and then he introduced us to many individuals, and those individuals like seemed like we all became family. You know, that's the one thing that Serena talks about with her becoming a consultant with Norwex is that they don't just do business together, they do life together. And that's the thing is like Manny and I, we weren't working for each other, we were working with each other together. Like, no matter what, I wasn't his employee, he wasn't my employee. You know, from time to time I would maybe do a side job for him and he would pay me. You know, I brought him in a really huge, like, I don't know, 47-inch flat screen for the restaurant, so that way we never even set it up. That's the whole thing is like that we had these ideas, all these ideas that we were gonna implement, but so many other things are going on, right? And we got this event this Saturday, so let's do this big old car show going on, you know. That's one of the things. He was connected to all the lowriders here in the community, and you know, I was expecting so many more people down at his services, but we were down in Los Lunas, not in Albuquerque. So I understand, and a lot of people also weren't even in town, and it was so sudden, so unexpected. You know, there are people who are. I just saw a person flew in just this morning. You know, just one day away from being able to make it to his services. You know, and they just flew in. You know, just this morning from being in Vegas. You know, and I know that he would have been there. You know, there's so many individuals that I know would have been there if they could have. You know. Uh, the services were beautiful. Some things were a little bit weird and uncalled for with what was spoken by the pastor there. A little bit too deep and uncalled for. But but overall, it was beautiful services. The reception, I'm so grateful that I just felt it necessary. See, the thing is I get these callings, right? You just hear that inner voice like, hey, you got to do this. You should probably do this, you know. You just get these inner callings, right? It's your inner, the God within. It's the God connection is telling you like these are the things, and you either go through that door that's open for you, or you wait for another to open, you know. When one door is closed, don't you know, many more is open. Just like Bob Marley said. May he rest in peace as well. And so, you know, the calling I heard was, well, I mean, we actually got a call. from his loved one, from Sue, saying that you know, that Manny's mom, Emmanuel's mom, was concerned about the food because Manny would have been the caterer. He would have been the one catering this event, or not. I mean, not his own event, of course, but he was the one that they called for. They called upon to cater events, and they had no one. And I didn't know what was going on with the individuals at the restaurant and the cooks and the chefs there and things. I'm sure they had their hands full with just keeping business going and keeping it open. So I felt like, hey, we just went shopping. We always buy rice in bulk and dal, like all of the Indian food, all of those cuisines, I buy in bulk. Like we have a year's supply worth of food that when things go down, we'll be all right. So I was like, I can make a big old pot of rice. I can make some dal. I can make the aloo gobi, which is a recipe I just learned like last week, you know. And you know, I saw Manny a month ago, and I knew his health was diminishing. I knew that we were gonna lose him. You know, I don't ever want to say those things out loud when I get that that calling within, and I just know that premonition. You just see it. You see it in their eyes. You can see it in their soul. You can feel it in your own heart. And so I knew that I didn't know it was going to be that quick though, but I knew that if he couldn't get the whole inflammation and everything under control and things, that it was just going to be I thought, a slow demise. And I have to say, thank God that he didn't have to suffer for too long, you know. So I got that calling to make some food, you know, and I was so tired. Like, oh my gosh, we got to wake up in the morning for his services. Sue's gonna come pick us up at, I thought at like 7 a.m., 7 or 8 a.m. because we had to be over there by 9 and get things unloaded and everything because the services started at 10 a.m., you know, early in the morning. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll set an alarm for 3 a.m. That'll give me until, you know, 3, maybe 4 hours. Maybe she's not going to show up right at 7. Maybe she'll show up at 7:30 or 8. And I was like, I'll try to just start cooking at 3 a.m. I'll just set an alarm. And I went to like try to lay down here on the couch and and just, you know, close my eyes for a little bit. And I was just thinking in my head, you know, like, should I sleep? Should I just stay up, pull an all-nighter? What should I do? And I was about to fall asleep, and then our cats woke me up. They dropped a whole bunch of stuff, knocking stuff off the, you know, the way cats do. They just like to just knock things everywhere. So they woke me up. I had to clean up the mess over here, and and I was like, you know what? I guess I'm up. I'm up now. I'm cleaning. I'm moving around. My blood's flowing. Let me just start the dal. Because the dal takes a while. You got to do it in the pressure cooker. Let me get the beans going. Beans are gonna take, you know, 5 hours. I didn't even think about that. Like, how am I gonna cook beans at 3 a.m.? Like, I didn't even think about that. I needed to definitely start that the night before, right? So luckily, I started them right then at 1 a.m. and cooked all the way till 7 a.m. I think, maybe 8. I think till 8 actually. Right before she got there, I'd finally finished the cornbread. So I made a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm grateful that I just felt that calling, because when we got there, there was nothing but desserts, pizza, and sandwiches, and like finger foods and stuff. There was no real like warmth, like that loving cooking, like what Manny would have provided for us. So I felt it necessary to do my best to fill in for his role. And the feedback I received, everyone loved it. Everyone was so grateful for it. I just feel like I, I did Manny good. He would have been proud. He would have been impressed with what I had done, for 7 hours making food that long. That's without even sleeping all night. And it was an honor to do that for his mom, because I know that she was really concerned about that. She lost her caterer. She's saying how she's got this person and that person in her life, like all these individuals who are her this and her that, and Manny was her caterer, and she had no one to cater his his services. So I was just told to do so by the Lord, by the Lord's grace. He gave me the power, the strength, the energy to stay up all night. He gave me the stamina to stay up throughout the whole day, throughout the whole services, to be able to help Sue drive home at the end when I'm completely exhausted. But she was passing out. She was falling asleep behind the wheel, and I needed to take over. So I needed to be there for them, for his family, for his loved ones. So for me, it was an honor. It was a blessing to be able to fill his shoes. He's got some big shoes to fill, and he's got a huge heart to fill. Manny Hart, Emmanuel Hart, Emmanuel. And his name was Emmanuel. It's the same name as Jesus. The way that he lived, he gave, he provided food from when there was like no food, and just somehow he just created food out of nowhere. Would always feed the homeless. He didn't question them. He didn't he did what he could to help them. At the services, I found out that ABQ Bite was actually like a hub for him to provide and bring in people. Sorry, excuse me. And I guess that's how him and Sue met. And I didn't realize that they had just met in 2019. That all of us had these like real short connections with him. Well, not all. I mean, of course, the family knew him forever, and all his lifelong friends knew him forever, and things like that. But I mean, those of us who had just come within the last year or years, like, we all just barely got to know each other. And he built a beautiful community in such a quick time, and I'll always love him, and I'll always cherish his friendship and being able to confide in him, to share those really deep, dark feelings, and to really be able to speak my heart to him, to share my soul with him, and him share his soul back. To talk about his children the way he did, to talk about the struggles of trying to be there for them, and dealing with, like, having to deal with the exes and those kind of things, and like always having to have that extra burden on there when all you want to do is just spend time with your children and just have a good time, and then you got this extra thing going on. And I understood that, him and I, as fathers, as like separated fathers from our, from our babies' mamas, the those are the things that us men we go through, and sometimes some of us men can connect in those ways. And so he was one of the few that I could talk about these things with. I'm gonna miss him severely. But I understand that our journey must go on. You know, I understand that these bodies here, they age. You see? See? We age, you know, we start to diminish. These bodies just fall apart on us. We can't keep them forever. We can't be here on earth forever. See, we have to understand that we are eternal spirit souls. When we can understand that we are eternal, that means we are immortal. Eternal means forever, and that means we are immortal. And until we can understand that our souls are immortal, we are eternal, we live on forever. But right now, right here, we get sucked into this realm called the Maya. The Maya is the illusion, the material world of which we seeked. We, as souls, decided, we chose to come back down here to this earth, to this lower loka. There are many lokas above and very high lokas. The lokas, the ones where our Lord resides, Creator resides, on the highest form, the highest loka. And we're down here on one of the lowest lokas here. We, you know, many of us have been told, and we understand, or we've heard and listened to the story of how the, you know, the dark one who didn't listen to the Lord, to the light, wanted to have his own ways and his own ruling, so was sent down to earth to rule this dominion, this domain, this right here. This planet is ruled by darkness. And until we understand that in life there's 4 stages of suffering that we all must endure when we choose to come back here, when we choose to return back to earth, that we have basically signed this like unspoken contract, right? Like mentally, spiritually, with our souls and Creator. We like decided, made this contract. We're gonna come back down here to enjoy materialism, to enjoy these things, the flavors, the taste, the cravings, you know, to come and enjoy this, you know. Oh, look, I can't enjoy it. To enjoy our taste sensory satisfactions, to fulfill those cravings. As souls, we missed what was presented to us here. Those things that they say, you know, is what, it's like dangling that carrot right in front of us, always leading us opposite of where we should be going to. Back to the God self, back to the God self within, back to Creator, back to the effulgent light of God. And so we get distracted here, and we, when as babies, you know, we relearn everything because we forget our past lives or our past experiences as eternal souls, and the many experiences that we've had to endure over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so we have to then learn, and a lot of you don't even have ever been taught this, but we all endure 4 stages of suffering, which is birth, dis-ease or disease, old age, and then death. These are, you can't really go around them. Birth, dis-ease, old age, death. You know, in birth, we come out crying. We're pulled away from that comfort of the womb, the closeness, that connection from mother, and we're cut, like we are severed there's pain involved in the nerve endings and all of that there. We're cut there. That's the first form of suffering, is coming through the birth canal or maybe through the C-section, you know, and that's the first state of suffering. And we go through 4 stages, and the trick is learning how to bring heaven, creator, the light, that effulgent light, that energy down here with us, so it can be more enjoyable, so the suffering can be more enjoyable. These teachings come from what I know and understand to be the Vedas. The Vedas, from what I know and understand, are the direct spoken word of God. The vibrational sound vibration, the source, the energy that was vibrated out, which then was translated eventually. You know, first, in the beginning, there was sound, right? A lot of people say, let there be light. But there was really just an Om, which is not Om, but Om, A-U-M. 3 sound vibrations. 3 primary sound vibrations, like we have 3 primary colors, which are also a vibration. Color vibration, sound vibration, light vibration, energy. When we can learn to speak in energy, frequency, vibration, when we can connect ourselves in that way, that's when you can finally understand how to bring heaven down to earth, how to bring that effulgent light within you to where you can enjoy the 4 stages of suffering a little bit easier. So when we lose someone, that's a dis-easement. You know, it's not easy. And the loss, you know, the grievance, when we have to go through the grief and the just losing someone and having to endure that pain, you know, to feel that sever, like the umbilical cord getting cut. You know, our hearts vibrate in a way that has this I forget what they call it, but we have auras around us, right? And they have these machines now that can pick up your energy vibration, your signature, your frequency, your pattern, your specific, and everything, every living thing that's out here, including inanimate objects. All these things all have a resonant frequency vibration. It's how glass, when you ding and you find its own natural resonance, those singers can then hit that and they bring up that vibration, and then they make the resonance more powerful, so they amplify it, so they make the energy more, and they raise up the vibration, and they hit it at the resonant frequency, and then boom, they can break glass with their voice. Everything has a resonant frequency vibration within it, and our hearts have that, and we have this vibration that comes out, and it extends out at least 6 feet. You know, some of us are connected, you know, from one side of the world to the other, you know, and even from other worlds. My mother no longer is here on earth. My mother's eternal soul moved on a few years ago, and that love, that connection is still there. She's no longer on this loca, on this realm, in this planet here, and yet still the heart connection is still there. So yeah, we here on the planet may have a 6-foot like bubble around us, and that's the energy. So, you know, some people, if you got bad energy coming near you, you'll feel that. If you're within your own good vibration, you will feel a difference a disharmony, a disruption. You can feel that negative energy coming. It's why they told us to stay 6 feet apart. They wanted to disconnect that love connection, that heart vibration. That's why it's so important for us to give heart to heart hugs. And the heart's on the left side, right? Or is it in the center? The Mandela effect somehow has moved it. Like, wasn't the heart here at some point in our life? Now it's right here. But we were taught a heart to heart hug is where you go on the left side to left side. Boom, right? And you embrace your brother and sister in that way. You let your vibration of the heart connect, bond. That's all that is. And we feel it. And that's why we love hugs. We feel that. But sometimes we don't love it from some individuals, right? Because their vibration doesn't resonate with ours. It's not part of that same frequency and flow. So for me, understanding that everything is in frequency, energy, and vibration, understanding that we are eternal spirit souls, that we will live on forever. And this is only one little pit stop, but it's a long time. And we get stuck here and we think that this is like the end all be all. And we think that once we pass on, that's just the end, but it's not. And so for me, understanding the Vedas, understanding that direct spoken word of God that was then eventually, passed down from the beginning of time and from the beginning of humans being here. Those songs, right? Or psalms. Remember in church, they teach you the psalms, the songs, and you sing them, right? Those are the same things that's within the Vedas. It's just the songs that have been put into Sanskrit, which is just a vibration which came out, which then was recorded by man at some point and put down to where now the Vedas, the science of life has been put out there for us all to know and understand. And that has come. Good morning. Good morning, Boogie Boogie. Yeah, I'm just doing a video talking about our friend Manny. And so, to understand those connections, that we are eternal, that there is the sound vibration that was recorded from Creator itself and record it into Sanskrit and then translate it into many different languages that we can understand nowadays. The knowledge is there. That's all I'm going to say. The knowledge is there. You don't have to limit yourself to only knowledge that's just from 2,000 years ago. We don't have to limit ourselves to that we can go on further and beyond that. And we can go way beyond that once we understand that we are eternal and our souls are eternal. So for me, knowing the instructions or prescriptions or transcriptions that have been recorded within certain texts, sacred books, that that all of this information then has been retranslated into other forms of sacred texts, like the Emerald Scrolls and the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Emerald Tablets, the Quran, the Bible, the like any of those sacred texts. It was all translated from the Vedas. All of that knowledge, all that wisdom, everything that Yeshua, that Emmanuel, that Jesus shared, that all came from before. He was talking about, I believe, King David and his prophecies. And he was simply sharing what he was taught beforehand, and he was just sharing all of it. Simply what I'm doing right now. I'm sharing the fact, the absolute truth that comes from the Vedic scriptures. So we can either limit ourselves or we can go beyond. And it's our own choice and our own option there. For me, I choose to just stay within the light and to know that we are eternal, and that this time here on earth, it's given to us as a way to gather experience, to reflect upon our soul's journey, the many journeys that we've already come through, and with that many more that we will endure, until we can learn from the Vedic scriptures, and through bhakti yoga, is how we can actually remove ourselves from the cycle of the 4 stages of birth and the cycle of birth and death. And we can actually reside on that highest loka with Creator. But it takes that knowledge, that knowing how to do so. And even in knowing about it, I'm still a baby and learning all of it. So it's not going to happen for me in this lifetime. I already know this. I already know I will be back to see you all again soon. My brother will be back to see us again soon, in a different form, in a different light, in a different way, but with the same exact eternal spirit soul. And some may recognize him, and some may not. And he may become back as a she. He may become back as animal, as critter, as creature, as tree, as another form of an eternal spirit soul. So for me, in understanding that life is in that way, in that good way, and that we are eternal, it helps me to cope with the losses, even though, I'm going to miss him. I will miss my brother severely. All the talks that we ever had, like I said, I don't have anyone that I confide in the way I did with him. I wish I did. And maybe soon I'll find another soul that I'll connect with in that way. But there'll only be one Manny. One Emmanuel Heart. So I just wanted to share that with you, and just how I gave my devotional service in that way to help his family yesterday, to ease that worry from his mother, to ease that worry from Sue and from everyone else, and just to make sure that we all were fed a very blessed meal. They don't know it, but it was prasadam. It was blessed by Krishna. And to be able to do so in the Church of Christ, Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, it's all the same and it's all beautiful. And to be able to share that within the house of Christ, it's an honor. It's why when I stepped into the church, why I dropped to my knees and I honor the cross. I honor Christ in that way. I don't see anyone else do it like that. But Emmanuel, Yeshua, Jesus, is a very important sacred spirit soul as well. But there's many more who had come before him to teach him, to teach them, to teach them, to teach them. There's a lineage of gurus that go all the way back to the originals, to Krishna, to Rama, to Vishnu. So with that, I just want to send my love and my blessings to all of his family, to all of his friends, and to everyone his, just even people who just knew him and without having any sort of connection with him, just those who he fed that he never even had a conversation with, all they saw was his food and all they tasted was his love, you know? So I send my love and my blessings to you all. I know it's hard to lose individuals, and so, you know, we honor them in the ways that we do, in the ways that we feel is right. So, in my 7-hour cooking and staying up all night, that was for you, brother. I love you. I'll miss you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Many blessings to your eternal spirit soul. We'll always keep you in our hearts, Manny. And our love and our prayers. We took your extra food and we fed the homeless, as I know you want it. And then your mom comes up like 2 minutes later after my wife and I are talking about it. And I'm like, well, all this food, like Manny would want us to go and feed the homeless. And then his mom comes like, hey, do you have your car? I'm like, no, I came with Sue. Like, well, can you guys take this food and go feed the homeless? Like, seriously, a minute or two later. Like, yeah, I know that's what Manny would want us to do. So we did it. We had like four of them sandwich trays, and right away, just right around the corner, I knew. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of individuals here who are unfortunate to have to be on the streets. And fortunately, I was able to feed them yesterday in Manny's honor. So thank you, brother. So we'll continue to give in your way. We'll continue to stay connected because you connected us. We'll continue to put the show on for as long as we can. I don't know what the plans are for ABQ Bite right now. I know this Saturday coming up in like 6 days on the 22nd, I believe, the Saturday the 22nd is Summerfest in Nob Hill, Albuquerque, New Mexico. And last year we set up in front of ABQ Bite. Manny had food going inside. We were out there entertaining the crowd. I had a little tiny stage, brought my amp, brought my guitar, had a couple other people join us to do some music. We had a few vendors outside there, bringing in some people and letting them know about ABQ Bite and the different events that we put on and stuff there, which I don't know what we're going to do now. I don't know if it's going to stay open because he's not the owner. Apparently, I always thought that he was, but just didn't want to claim he was. But apparently, there's another individual who owns ABQ Bite without Manny. I don't know if it can go on or not. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to step up into his place and to fulfill his big old shoes. I wish I could. Yeah, I love cooking, and I would love to cook with heart. But I don't have the time. My family needs me. Or or I would, Maybe if there's a way that Creator can bless us and we can have someone come in and help us here in the home and help my wife as caretaker, and maybe I can go and help out at the restaurant and be caretaker there, But other than that, I need to be here with family. I wish I could fulfill his shoes there. It would be, I've never been a chef professionally, but I've always loved to cook. Excuse me again. I've always thought of like being a personal chef for families and individuals, those in need, those who need like meals prepped during the week and stuff. I've always thought about those things, but I've never implemented those ideas. And I've got so many things on my plate already. I don't know how I even can add another plate. Let's add more plates, huh, Manny? All right. Well, we may try to gather for Summerfest this Saturday. Like I said, I don't know what the plans are. I've kind of put this out there to a few individuals that maybe we can do an ice cream social. Keep it simple. We don't have to cook anything, you know, minimal dishes. We got the freezer space there, so we can just put have everyone bring in a gallon of ice cream to share, you know, their favorite ice cream or whatever they want to do, and you know, or half gallon. You know, I don't know if we all need full gallons. So with as much people coming in, there might be way too much ice cream. We'll have to start feeding homeless some ice cream. We'll have a homeless ice cream social out there in Summerfest. We'll just start giving away ice cream to people walking by. Hey, it'll keep people cool. Summerfest is gonna be a scorcher. It's gonna be hot out there. That's guaranteed. We may have to figure out how to have a portable misting system on our booth. My glass will be fine, but I don't know about like getting the Norwex wet and the cards and things like that. Like we might have to put like a plastic sheet or I don't know. A mister may be necessary though. Um, but yeah, we may be able to do an ice cream social one last hoorah, a gathering to just celebrate Manny's life and share stories and you know, all come together and perform music, do an open mic like Chantel used to do, bring in the whole Loud Cloud magazine group, everyone, all the different groups who were there, who had done shows, the comedy events with Paul Panas and everyone that he brought. You know, they brought Joey Medina, the Latin Kings of Comedy. You know, I got to meet Joey because of Manny, which I met him before, but I got to re-meet him again. You know, working at El Rey Theater in the Golden West, that allowed me to meet a lot of celebrities and famous individuals. So I got to meet Joey Medina again from Latin Kings of Comedy, and we actually got to like talk, and like it was cool. Um, but yeah, if we can just bring everyone together one last time and share stories, Summerfest, I think would be a really inviting time and a very a proper occasion to do this. So I don't know though if this is gonna happen. I need to get the whole clarification and the okay. I don't have a key anymore. The second to last time I went to go see Manny, he needed the key back because he gave his key to someone else. So I was like, yeah, I showed up there and the front door wasn't even locked. He had pushed the banister in front of it. So I figured that out and I like pushed it open like, oh, and and then he asked for my key. So I gave him my key back like two months ago or something. So I don't have any way to unlock it anymore or get in there. I don't have access. Um, but maybe this Saturday we could do one last gathering and just share stories and share the love and come together. Maybe we could even do like being that it's back to school coming up soon. Maybe we can have people bring in backpacks and school supplies. I know he would love to do that, and we can give back to the community. You know, one last time. All right, I'm gonna leave you with that. Much love and blessings to you all, and I wish you well. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswara Panana Paramahamsa Chinamane Baja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Vasudeva Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Bol. Love and blessings, brother. Until we meet again.